Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Buerta, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am your host, Shireen Buerta, and welcome back to Friends from Wild Places. I am also your virtual bookkeeper and QuickBooks advisor from Shireen's Bookkeeping Services. And what do I think about an accountant handling everything? Taxes, bookkeeping, payroll, and everything in between. Well, it has its pros and cons. There is a saying that goes, you should never have all your eggs in one basket. You will never know if there's anything going wrong if one person is handling everything. We are only human at the end of the day. Having multiple sets of eyes helps pick up small mistakes or even incorrect workflows. This keeps things accurate and updated. It's about collaboration, not competition. So call Shireen's Bookkeeping Services today and allow me to stay on top of your books so you don't have to. If you want to know more, go check me out at www.shireensbookkeeping.com and keep your books clean. So welcome back, everybody. It's so nice to have you join me again. I have a very special co-host to introduce you today. His name is Ameer Saib. He is a video editor and owner of Clearly Presented. He is situated right now in Bloemfontein, South Africa, but he is all the way from Turkey. I'll let him get into that a little bit later, but he is also part of my BNI networking group called High Performance Referrals, and that is how we met. So it's so good to have you here today. Ameer, how are you?
Very well. Thank you very much, Shireen. It is so nice to be here. I really appreciate this. And thank you very much for this opportunity. And it's good to be here.
So glad that you could make it. Is life going well for you?
Life is going on very well. Thank you very much. I actually am enjoying South Africa quite a bit. It's a beautiful place. It's a nice country, and I don't miss. I'm originally from the United States, and I don't really miss much of the American side of things because it's very familiar to me. So it's working out fairly well. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me talking about South Africa. I have a whole lot of vervet monkeys running over my roof, so there's quite a lot of banging. So excuse the banging if you hear anything. Those are vervet monkeys on my roof. A couple of clans are here in the neighborhood. So back to you, Ameer. I just want to find out from you, what is your favorite part about BNI?
About BNI, well, I really enjoy the camaraderie of BNI, the fellowship of BNI. It's like-minded business people joining together to support each other in their daily business activities. So we always help each other with referrals, with solutions, with tips and tricks on what to do with things. And anytime somebody or one of us has something in the back of their head, I really wish I knew somebody that could give me that tip about that tax thing that I'm about to do at the end of this year, or something about how do I submit this receipt? Do I put it as an expense or as a depreciation or as an annuity, or what do I do with this? Then you can actually have someone to go to and ask for help, and it's right there, and it's great. Absolutely fantastic.
Right. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think just our team itself, we're such a close bunch and we all get along well with one another. Our chapter High Performance Referrals, for some of you that don't know, we are a permanently online networking group that meets on Zoom every Tuesday at 7 a.m. PST time. That is Pacific Standard Time. And we have an amazing group, and we build each other up, and we've learned quite a lot together. There's a couple of people that have been around for quite some time and are my coaches and help me a lot in running my business. So it's not just about growing your business, it's about, as you said, just the teamwork and the relationships that you build, which is one of the values of BNI. So yes, if you are interested, and again, it's so important for a business owner and professional to be a part of a networking group. And if you don't know where to start, and you can pretty much work from anywhere and perform your business from anywhere in the world, you are more than welcome to come and join us at our meetings every Tuesday. You can either go straight to the website for high performance referrals, or you can email me at Shireen@Shireen'sBookkeeping.com. That's Shireen@Shireen'sBookkeeping.com. And we can get you registered and you can come and visit. Again, there's no pressure for you to join. You can just come and visit and see if you like it and see if we are your tribe that you fit in with, and we'll go from there. But yes, it is so important to be a part of a networking group. And I'm very glad that you said that, Ameer, because I think, again, it's nice to hear different perspectives from other people that are part of a networking group. And so it was so good and is so good to have you part of my team. So thank you very much. So today,
pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so today I have a quote, Ameer, and it's: success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you do, then you will be successful. That's from Herman Cain. So on that, I would love just to start out and chat to you and ask you to tell us a little bit about your background and where you've come from, and a little bit about your family, or however.
Okay, well, I've got a fun and mixed background. I was born in West Germany. I'm old enough where there used to be a West and East Germany, and I was born in West Germany way back in 1965. Now, my dad was a dentist. He was working there, and he got a job in 1968 in Saudi Arabia, of all places. So he ended up and moved the entire family to Saudi Arabia, to the Eastern Province. And I grew up there. I grew up in Saudi Arabia until I finished high school. And then finally in 1984, I moved to the States in California, and I began my life over there. I started as a biologist, and I finished that, and then I became a medical technologist. I worked in the medical industry for many years, and then in the pharmaceutical industry, clinical research. I did that for several years. And then my sister had, a few years before me, had moved to Dubai, and she kept begging me to come to Dubai. And I was very happy back home in the States. I had upped and relocated from California to North Carolina, so I was in North Carolina. I was pretty happy. I had my own place. Everything was great. But I said, well, you know what? I'm in between jobs. Let me go ahead, take my chance, and head over to Dubai and see what this is all about. Why my sister's begging me to go over there. Well, I went over there. Sure enough, it was nice. And I met a guy in a bar. Be careful who you meet in a bar. Okay, so I met this guy in a bar. His name was Richard. And he worked for a company that did advanced simulators for the oil and gas industry. So imagine how you train a pilot, right? You train drilling operators, drilling rig operators. It's the same way with all the buttons and screens in front of them, and all of the little equipment and gizmos and stuff. And that's the kind of simulators they did. It was called Drilling Systems, and I worked for them for about 7 years. And that was my real exposure to video, imagery, and basically developing different kind of simulations, simulated environments, and all of those things. And I did that for 6 years. They were a British company, and it was a lot of fun. Then went back home to the States, and I was there for a little while, and then we moved to Turkey because my dad started to have advanced dementia. So both my sister and I became involved in his life, and we started taking care of him. And at that time, this was in 2019. 2020, the pandemic hit. I was back in my biological tracks again. I was doing a DNA analysis, wellness analysis, and we were taking sputum samples. We were sending them back to our laboratory in the States to give people a clear physical profile of their health and well-being. Unfortunately, once the pandemic hit, everything came to a dead stop. We could no longer do any kind of human biological transfers anywhere in the world, right? So the pandemic just simply put an end to that. And that was it for that DNA analysis type work that I was doing. Okay, so I decided to think about, well, what can I do? Well, I have an MBA, Master's in Business, and I decided, okay, well, let me put on my MBA hat and start doing some market research and find out where things are headed and what is happening. And I saw problems with things that are changing constantly because of the pandemic. You have new procedures, new policies, new ways of doing business, new ways of communicating. The common word here is new. New. So if you have so many new things, well, somebody's got to explain all of these new things to the employees and the incoming workforce or the existing workforce with all the changes. And I said, okay, well, if somebody needs to explain all of these things, the best way to do it is through video. So I had a little bit of experience in video. I decided to sharpen up my skills in video editing, and I formed Clearly Presented right up there. And I started doing video editing, and it didn't take long to find customers. It was actually fairly quick. A lot of people needed help with video, and initially I began to make instructional videos. Later on, it expanded into advertisements, promo videos, and then podcasts and video podcasts, and it's grown.
Right. Okay. So thanks for sharing that. And you did mention that then how you started Clearly Presented. Did you, or could you mention some of the other businesses that you tried to run before you started Clearly Presented?
So when I was in North Carolina, I purchased a petrol station, an oil and gas, a regular petrol station. So that was my first exposure into the oil and gas industry. Drilling systems later on was in a completely different environment. That was in the original manufacturer, production, and simulation and training side of things, whereas the petrol station is just retail outlet. And it was a regular petrol station. You had a convenience store inside. I had a kitchen inside where we cooked food and so on in North Carolina. And then I purchased a second petrol station and did that fairly well. And everything was going smooth until 2008, late 2008, when the housing collapse happened in the United States and everything came, again, the same thing, to a screeching halt. It slowed down dramatically, and that was the point when I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to go back into the pharmaceutical industry. I think it's nice. It's a nice environment. So I sold them, and that was the in-between time when I moved to Dubai after I sold my two petrol stations.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it just shows that, it wasn't like you opened Clearly Presented and it was the first company you've ever opened and, it was purely successful and great. You know what I mean? It's so interesting. And you've told me your story before, so that's why I wanted to highlight that. So interesting that, you've went through a couple of different businesses before. And you learned quite a lot of different things along the way before you actually opened your business, which is now Clearly Presented. So that is so cool. And so I wanted to ask you, what makes you different from other video editing businesses?
Well, because of my business background, my previous background in running a business and so on, I know a lot of people like consistency and simplicity. So they like things that are quality, there's consistent, you know what you're going to get, and the pricing structure is very easy and very clear. A lot of people like that. And that's based on that, that's how I decided to make sure Clearly Presented is running. So I have consistent products that we do consistently with the customers. We give them good quality in terms of the editing that we do on their videos, so they know their color is going to be correct. They know their sound is going to be correct. They know that a lot of the ins and outs and sounds like the ahs and ums and so on are going to be taken out so that they don't have to worry about those things. If it's an instructional video, they know it's going to be clear, concise, with the right images and the right information to give whoever that information is for the exact amount of information they need to get the procedure or job done. And that's what we look at. On the pricing side of things, we have flat pricing. So flat pricing for the instructional videos. They all go in a series of steps. We just simply make it in step-by-step pricing. Very simple.
Right.
We do it for 20 per step, and each step has several layers to it. You have the image that has to be optimized. You have the narration that has to be done, the subtitles that have to be put in, and then you also have to have the music background if you need it put in as well. So we get everything set up really nicely. And that's what we do. A lot of people who do podcasts and so on, we help them quite a bit. I do quite a few in our group, and it's quite fun. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned podcasts, Ameer, because let's take a break. And I just want to talk about Buzzsprouts. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get your message out to the world. When I started this podcast, I didn't know where to begin and was quite overwhelmed. But using Buzzsprout makes it super easy and straightforward. To start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and helps support our show. Buzzsprout, let's create something great together. So thanks, Ameer. This is a question that I like to ask many business owners and entrepreneurs. Are you a natural entrepreneur? Does it come naturally to you, or is it something that you have to nurture?
Actually, that's an interesting question. I would say I probably had to nurture that. But the interesting thing is I didn't have to nurture it in terms of like I didn't go looking for it, right? When I was doing my MBA, my master's in business, I had been already working in the medical industry for quite a while, in the pharmaceutical industry for quite a while. And the reason I went into an MBA is because I said, okay, what I need to do is I need to move ahead in the environment that I'm in, the medical environment that I am, right? It's great. I have technical skills. I can do, hematology, chemistry, doing all kinds of clinical analysis, right? But I didn't have the business knowledge. And if I wanted to become a lab manager, a hospital manager, or move up in the management chain, I needed to have some kind of business knowledge. So that was the reason I went into the MBA program. When I finished the MBA program, I realized there was something about it I didn't know. MBA was actually geared for entrepreneurs, not for people who are already in the industry and who want to move up the chain of management. There are tools there you can use. There are all of those things there that will help you move up the chain of management. But it was more geared, at least the program I was in, it was more geared towards entrepreneurs. So when I came out of the MBA, I was on fire. I gotta do something. I gotta have my own business. I gotta, buy a business. I know there were 3 ways to get into a business. Either you start something from scratch, purchase a franchise, or you purchase an existing business, right? Those are the 3 main ways of getting into a business. So I went looking around and looking at different options. And then I found this petrol station that was up for sale, and it had a convenience store. The numbers made sense. So I bought it, and it worked out very well. And I then bought a second petrol station, and I ran them for 7 years, for quite a while. So I gained a lot of experience. I had 10 people working under me, and employees, books, taxes, restaurants, menus, all kinds of stuff. A lot of knowledge came out of that. A lot of knowledge came out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what is one of the greatest lessons you have learned in starting your own business?
Okay, I'm glad you asked me that question. So, when I finished molecular biology, cell molecular biology, that was my first degree in the Bachelor's of Science. I was on cloud nine. We were experimenting with all kinds of stuff. We were, splicing DNA. We were doing all kinds of fantastic, amazing advanced science stuff. Okay, biological sciences. And I graduated and I said, okay, it's time to go looking for a job, right? Now, mind you, this is back in early 2000, 2000. So sorry, not early 2000. I apologize.
No,
1990, early 1990.
okay.
No internet back then, right? Internet didn't come around till about 90, 94, 90, 95, something like that.
Hmm.
So I started I started looking for jobs, and that's when reality hit me because we couldn't just simply send our resume or email them. We had to actually drive around and submit our resumes physically by hand to the different companies and visit them and so on, and then wait for a call to a possible interview.
Right.
So that's when I realized it took me about 6 months to find work, and this is back in California, in San Francisco Bay Area, where I was living at the time.
Right.
I realized, okay, you could have a fantastic degree in your hand, or you could have the cure for cancer, right here in your hand.
Right.
But if you can't sell it, it really wasn't worth much. Because the employers I was talking to, they would say, okay, great, you can splice DNA, you can grow, bacterial cultures and all kinds of stuff. How am I going to sell that?
Right.
Right? How am I going to sell that to my end user? Okay. So that's where it really hit me, right? That's where I realized you got to have something that is worth to market there's a demand for that yet you can sell and so on. Research is great and all,
Right.
but at the end of the day, that's why a lot of research professors spend most of their time running around begging for money. Right?
Wow.
That's pretty much what they do. They run around looking for grants, looking for money to fund their research, making deals with private enterprises and so on. So that was my hardest lesson that I learned. So that's why when it came time for me to decide to go for a master's degree, I went for an MBA. Now, when I went and moved on and became a medical technologist, you add an additional year of education on top of your bachelor's, and you specialize in hospital laboratories. Okay. And hospital laboratories are a whole different animal than regular research biological research, university type. And basically in medical technology, you're running laboratory analysis on all of the typical patients that you get in clinics, polyclinics, hospitals, doctors' offices, all of those things. You're running all the laboratory analysis. There's a real demand for that. Insurance is paying for it. And what was a real eye opener for me was when I walked into the laboratory and I started doing it, I realized it was a money making machine.
Right.
Why? Because there's a massive demand, there's a massive medical industry in there, and it's all connected, business oriented, insurance funded, all taken care of that way. So those are the lessons that I got out of it. You can have a fantastic thing, but if you can't sell it, it's really not worth much.
Right. Right. That's fantastic. And now tell me, Ameer, what is your vision for your business?
Okay, so I intend to grow the business on a regular basis, not fast, steady, slow and steady. And the reason I want that is because if it grows too fast, and this is my MBA side coming out now. If it grows too fast, then you start losing control of what's happening. Okay, so there are ways to grow the business, and that is the idea. And there's a lot happening in video editing.
Right.
So it's not just you have to make sure the story is right, and you do that by breaking and cutting different sections of the video and rearranging them sometimes
Right.
to make sure that the story actually flows.
Right.
The color has to be correct, right? And I have to apologize for my lighting today because the room I'm in is making me look kind of pink. That's I can fix that. Then the sound has to be there, correct, and then you have to have proper intros, proper outros, and call outs and all of those things that are needed. So there's a lot happening in video editing, which means you can actually delegate certain parts of the video to different people.
Right.
And that's the idea, is to have a specific group of people that actually edit the video, and then we move on to the next project and grow it group by group by group. And that's how that's the slow, steady expansion that I'm looking for.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I hope you get that and achieve that vision. Ameer, thank you so much for sharing your life and your experiences and how you became a business owner. For me, it's very interesting to be able to ask my co-hosts these questions, because I think everyone has a different story when it comes to how they started their businesses, when they started their businesses. Some people went and they got an education and a degree behind them, and then they started their businesses. Other people didn't. So it's so interesting to see different ways and methods of how people came to be in their businesses today. And to say there's not one way, but many ways. So yeah, that's awesome. All right. I would love to just introduce a second person to the show. This is my favorite part of the show, and that's when I introduce my nonprofit. So I would love to introduce you to Andy. She is amazing. I'm super excited to get her in here. So let's welcome her. Hello, Andy. Are you here? Can you hear us? Yay!
Hello, hello.
Hi, Andy. How are you? Thank you so
I'm
much for your
good.
patience.
That's okay. I got all very confused with times.
Well, listen, it's not, don't worry. The fact that we're from all over the world, one in Australia, two people from South Africa. So sometimes I have people from America, which is multiple different time zones with PST and then the Central Time and then Eastern Time. So don't worry, it's totally understandable. But welcome.
Thank you.
So everybody, this is Andy. Andy, am I saying your surname correctly? Kahle?
Kahle.
Kahle. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful surname. I can't wait for you to tell us a little bit about where your origins are from, because that is this very unusual surname. I've never heard it before. So,
Okay.
right. Andy is a driver, speaker, author, survivor, and a owner of a nonprofit called Therapy on Wheels, based in Perth, Western Australia. So you are so welcome here. Welcome. And how are you, Andy?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just gonna make sure I not got everything else coming off my Wi-Fi so that I don't cut out on you.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated for that. That's awesome. So before we get into it, just so everyone understands, I met Andy through BNI. She is part of a BNI chapter in Australia called BNI Evergreen. And so the first question that I would love to hear from you, Andy, is what is your favorite part of being part of BNI?
I love the education session. At the moment, our education person is a business coach, and our education sessions
Andy,
are
can I
amazing.
stop you? We've got something
Yeah.
going on with the feedback or sound. It's a little bit crackly. Why are you speaking? It's just crackling. Hey, Ameer, it's like a...
Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure your microphone is not too close to your, so it might be a scratching against your cheek or something like that. So let's give it another shot.
It may be my headset. Let me see.
All right, how's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Much better.
Sounds
Much
perfect.
better?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, this is normal when it comes to technology. It's totally okay to get this and have these moments. But yes, please, sorry to interrupt you. Carry on and tell us what is your favorite part about BNI.
It's definitely the education session. Our chapter is lucky enough to have the business coach doing the education session. And every week we walk away with, wow, that was great. So yeah, every week I feel like I've had this personal little 5-minute consult with him.
Right, right. Those are the best parts. We actually are looking for, well, I don't know if it works the same, but we have a leadership role change coming up. And
Yes, same here. Yeah.
okay, so we actually don't have an education moment yet. We used to. Unfortunately, we lost our writer and editor, and he was our education moment person. So we haven't had one for a while, but we're going to get one now with the change of leadership. So I'm super excited to get that back, because there's, as you said, there's always something interesting, motivating, inspiring when the educator comes on and gives us an education moment. So
Yeah, definitely.
awesome. Okay, so I want to get straight into it, Andy, and I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. Anything about your family or just education, maybe your other business.
My other business. Well, there's a lot to me, as you alluded to in the description or in the intro for me. Well, for starters, because you're curious, by name, I'm married into it. My husband's family is German, so the name is German, but we were both born and bred in Australia. I'm from the East Coast, he's from the West Coast, and we made our life in the West Coast. I always had a love of drawing and creating. So I got an apprenticeship in a newspaper and worked my way through the newspaper industry, worked my way right up into big corporate advertising, and then it all got too much and too corporate, and I was spending too much time doing board meetings and budgets and all that boring stuff, and I wasn't doing anything nice and creative and fun anymore. So I took the big leap and went out on my own. And now I do what I love. So, which is the drawing and the creating and branding. And if you see any Andy K design stuff, it's a little bit different. Very, very out there, very unique, and lots and lots and lots of personality. And not for everybody, but definitely gets noticed. And then my sideline, because everyone needs a stress reliever, and my stress relief was motorsport. I love to get out there. I love to go and play with the cars. I love hanging out in the workshop with friends and with my husband. And we got very, very involved through friends in drag racing. And after a while, we decided it was time for us to take the big leap and get a car for ourselves. And there was never any question about it. I was always going to be the driver. Yeah, so I stepped in there, and so now I race drive and still draw pretty pictures for people. So two totally opposite ends of the scale.
Wow, that is, yes, you're very talented. You've got talents everywhere, and it's fantastic. And I can definitely sense you've got some creativity in you, which is absolutely amazing. And I share that with you. So, talking about your non-profit business, why Therapy on Wheels then? Because you obviously have your design business, but why did you start the non-profit then?
So I was just before we bought our own race car. We were very busy. I was learning how to be a race car driver. My husband was learning how to look after a race car, because it's not your standard sort of car. You can't just get in and drive it. And just before I was about to head to the track and sit my license, I got diagnosed with very aggressive breast cancer. And I had a bit of a fight on my hands, but the motorsport community that we were involved in really rallied around and kept my spirits up. It kept my husband's spirits up, and it gave us an outlet, somewhere to get out of your head when you're focused on getting better, and hospitals and doctors and treatments. And sometimes you've just got to get out of your head. You've got to get out of that space so that you can reset and recharge and feel a bit stronger and a bit happier. And motorsport was that for us. So once I did finally get out there and start racing, I raced for quite a few years, and then I saw other people going through that same struggle, some with breast cancer, some with other issues. And talking to some friends and other fans, we said, well, we need to share this awesome community. We need to share this experience with other people and show them that you don't have to be bogged down by all that heartache and all that stress. You can step outside for a little bit. You can go and do something really, really fun and reset those emotional barriers, and go and have a bit of fun, smile for a little bit. So
Right.
so we started a non-for-profit and to help share that experience.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Fantastic.
Right. So what has been a highlight that you will never forget on this journey with Therapy on Wheels?
I think it's probably one of my very first passengers. She was an amazing young lady. She was diagnosed shortly after giving birth to one of her kids. She had a little toddler and a newborn, and she was fighting through breast cancer. And when she got her all clear, I took her for a ride in the race car, and she was so nervous, but the smile on her face was priceless. And the excitement of her little boys when they were seeing how cool their mummy was, all dressed in her race suit with her helmet and everything, and going really fast. It was sort of her celebration to say, no, that part of my life is over with. I'm starting anew and I'm doing it quickly.
Nice. That is so awesome. So, Andy, here's another question that I like to ask, especially people that have gone through what you've been through. Name something that got you through those bad times, other than your driving.
Other than the focus that I was going to get behind the wheel, probably, community support and just people around, good quality friends, good quality family, people not letting me sink down into a depression.
Mhm.
It's a tough time, and it's very sad, but you've got to have people that will kick you up the bum when you need it and say, no, I know you're going through a tough time, but it doesn't mean you need to dwell on it. You've got to get out there. You've got to motivate yourself to, go for a little walk around the block, or get out and, sit out on the back patio and get some sunshine. And having those people is important.
Yes, no, I agree with you 100%. And Andy, I just want to ask whether I got it correctly. Have you written a book?
I have.
Can you share a little bit about that?
So while I was on my journey, because I come from a very big extended family, and there is spread all over Australia and a little bit across the world as well, everybody wanted to be up to date with how my journey was going and what I was doing. Facebook was still very new at the time that I was going through it, so not everybody had that. So I kept a blog, and I every single day I would write something in the blog, and sometimes it was just really, really silly observations of what I'd seen in the treatment rooms or at the hospital. Other days it was a bit more in-depth information. But the people that were reading the blog, it started to get spread around, and people started to share it with other friends, and everybody was a little bit on my case about, you've got to turn it into a book. But I was like, there's a lot of breast cancer books out there. There's a lot of cancer journey books out there. And I didn't see anything too special about my own journey. It was, I figured it was just the same as everyone else. But with a lot of pressure, and I did end up, through business networking, I ran into an editor, and she stayed on me for quite a while and set me some deadlines and helped me actually finish the book. And she said, the story might be very similar to everybody else, but the way you say it is very different, and my perspective on the world is a little bit different. So I have quite a humorous look at the world.
Wow.
So she said, no, just put it out there, and even if it doesn't sell, it's there for family and friends, and it's something to remember the journey by.
Yeah.
So it's published and it's been printed, and it's on about the third run of printing, and I only get small runs done, but I can't believe that people keep buying it. So it's pretty cool.
That is awesome. What's the name of the book, Andy?
So it's called Don't Wait for the Green Light. And it is available through our website, but it's also on Amazon and all your online bookstores and everything. So, and I'm in the process of doing an audio version of it as well.
Oh, awesome. Oh, Andy, that is so awesome. Well, congratulations with that book. I mean, that's just fantastic. What an achievement. Really, what an achievement. That's so good. Right, I'm going to get on to Amazon after this show to look for your book. Thank you, Andy. So, what is your vision for the future for Therapy on Wheels?
I just want to be able to share as many rides and as many experiences as I can. It's when I joined BNI, they said, "What's your title?" And I said, well, officially it's CEO, but that sounds so stuffy. So on the trade sheet, I'm called Creator of Smiles, because that's all I want to do. I just want to make people smile. And the further I can spread those smiles, the better. So the more I can spread, and the further I can travel and spread the smiles, take people for rides in the car, the better. And awesome. Just more and more.
That's fantastic. That is so cool. And again, I hope you achieve that vision, because I think the whole concept behind Therapy on Wheels is so amazing and so inspiring. So thank you for opening that nonprofit, because you are so appreciated, and what you're doing is reaching a lot of people. So thank you again for that. Andy, can people donate?
Yes, through the website. There's a button on the top of the website, and people can donate. All the profits go through to helping us keep the car running and helping us to donate some of the rides as well.
That's awesome. And when people want to reach out, if they need assistance from Therapy on Wheels, can they also reach out through the website?
Yes, definitely. There's plenty of different ways to contact us through the social medias and through the websites, and lots of links to services that we can't provide, but who we can put you in the right direction if you need help, and services that there's a lot of other charities out there doing great jobs.
Right. And talk about that. I'm going to squeeze in for those people that are watching on YouTube. That's great, because I'm actually going to squeeze in a couple of clips here of Andy racing around the tracks, so you can see her in her element. So I'm super excited to do that. And those that are listening, well, you're going to have an excuse to go over to the YouTube channel and go and have a look at some of the videos that I've got squeezed in there. So thank you so much, Andy. So since both of you, Ameer, and yourself, Andy, own businesses, my question is going to be aimed for both of you. It's great to have your own business and working hard and grinding and, doing what you love. But I know how stressful that things can get with businesses, whether it be just pressure from different sides of owning a business, from taxes or just clients, maybe difficult situations that come up. I think it's so important to take a time out. And I always say it's impossible to give from an empty tank. So what is it that you do to just refill that tank so that you can keep giving the best of yourself? And let's start with you, Andy.
I go and do silly things. I absolutely love the school holidays, because then I can go out with friends' kids or with nieces, nephews, and do silly kid stuff. Go to a community show and eat ice cream with sprinkles on, because you can. Why not? It's just take yourself back to the fun things that kids love doing, and go and do them yourself. It's
Right.
it's refreshing.
That's awesome. And what about yourself, Ameer?
Well, with me, both my wife and I are avid dancers. I started out swing dancing, Lindy Hop swing dancing, then I went into West Coast swing, and I do it on a weekly basis. And she comes from the Latin side, so she does salsa, ballroom, and Latin dancing. And she's a champion, actually. So that's what we do. We like to go out dancing. And with me, when I started doing swing dancing, I was under a lot of stress when I had at that time, my petrol station. There was you have 10 employees and you got all the razzle dazzle that comes with it. And so going out swing dancing it was like taking one Prozac pill after another. It was actually fantastic. So that's how I get rid of my stress.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think for me, it's very much being outdoors in nature. One of the main reasons I started my own business is so that I can continue to travel the world and be out in nature, backpacking and just doing my work from wherever I am in the world. And for me, spending that time in nature, discovering new and beautiful spots and taking videos of it and capturing those moments, and we're just sitting and just listening to my surroundings and smelling the different smells. And for me, that is how I refill my tank, because it's a moment where I can become grateful again of what is around me and of, the fact that my problems aren't that big and there's nothing that I can do with those things that are out of my control. And it's just a reminder, you're quite insignificant in, how do I say this, in comparison to the world. It's just a nice reality check, and just to bring you back down and be thankful for where you are in the moment you're sitting in right then and there. So that's my way of refilling my tank. So thanks, guys. Good question. So I would love to actually ask you, Ameer, something that I think Andy might be interested in, and myself, but I'm also from South Africa. So I've been born here and raised here, but you obviously coming from Turkey, you've only been living in South Africa for a few months. So I am interested to find out, what are some of the perceptions you had about South Africa? And now that you've moved here, you realize that your perceptions were incorrect.
Okay, so well, I spent most of my life in the U.S. obviously, and Turkey was the last bit. And when I moved to South Africa, I really didn't know much about South Africa. I came here before my first visit. I didn't know much. I knew they had, the history of apartheid and all of these things and so on, but not much was said about South Africa, like the level of economy and the level of advancements and the social structure and the business structure and all of those things. So when I first came to South Africa, I looked around and I was thinking, I thought I was in one of the suburbs of Los Angeles, to be honest. It just felt very similar to your typical regular Western country, other than the mukukus that are, the shacks that are out there every once in a while, those neighborhoods and so on. But most of the time, I mean, just go to a regular city, regular everything. And I didn't know about that. Now, I had been to Uganda and I'd been to Kenya and other African countries before. So I knew South Africa was in a better situation than that. However, I didn't realize how advanced South Africa was. And to any person coming from Western country, if you're looking to settle in Africa in a Western lifestyle, South Africa is definitely the place.
Wow, it's so interesting. And it's so interesting to hear other people's point of view when it comes to, to South Africa. And we've come to a part of the podcast where it's either story time or ask a question time, but again, gonna spin it up and do something different. I'm going to play a little game called Agree or Disagree. So I'm gonna just say a sentence, and then if you agree with that sentence, just lift your hand up. And for those that are listening, don't worry, I'll tell you who's put their hand up. And, that person can tell us why you agree with it. And those people that disagree with it can mention why they disagree with it. So it's only a few different things, but I just think it's going to be quite interesting because, let's start off with something that's quite controversial, but not very serious. But how's this one? Pineapple tastes great on pizza. So for the listeners, we have all put up our hands. But Ameer, please tell us why you agree with that statement.
Well, Hawaiian pizza is absolutely the best thing ever.
Right.
It's the best thing ever. I mean, I got to tell you, that pineapple just adds the right taste, the right thing, and it helps digest that the ham in your stomach. So it's good.
I couldn't agree with you more. Andy, don't you agree? Of course you agree, but what's your reason?
Oh, yes. Yes. Now, the pineapple gives it that freshness and sort of takes away any fattiness. So, yeah, no, it's lovely.
Yeah, the ratio between pineapple and cheese and the crispy crust needs to be at like an 50-50, all around. Because I absolutely love it. But there can't be too much pineapple and there can't be too much cheese and definitely not a thick crust. I feel like a nice thin crust with, a decent amount of cheese with the same ratio of pineapple. And I think you are sorted. And ham, those people that like their ham on their pizza. But I'm glad that we all agree with that because I can tell you now, it's quite controversial because there are some people that absolutely disagree with us. That pineapple is offensive on pizza, and anyone that eats pineapple on pizza is absolutely insane. So I'm glad we are all on the same track with that.
I wouldn't be surprised in the future if a war is started over that.
It's a serious thing. People get touchy about it. All right.
Yes. In Australia, we have the equivalent, which is beetroot on burgers.
So, what? Sorry. So that
we have an equivalent. Some people like it and some people don't, which is beetroot on burgers. Yeah, I say yes. It's a very Australian thing is to put beetroot on your burger.
What?
And yes, and there is some people that are very yes and some people that are very no. But it is very nice to put beetroot on your burger. I'm a yes.
Now, is it a fresh beetroot or pickled?
No, pickled
beetroot?
Pickled.
Okay, yeah, pickled I can see.
Okay, sorry guys. I'm going to have to disagree with that. I do not like beetroot in any way, shape or form. So that would be a 100% hell no for that for me. There's just certain foods that I can't eat, and that's one of them, including Brussels sprouts as a no-go. But I mean, Ameer sounds like he's quite interested to taste that.
Oh yeah, I'm going to give it a try right after the show, actually.
What, are you going to order it from Australia, or are you going to make it in your kitchen, Ameer?
No, I'm just going to buy a burger and get some beetroot and stick it in there, and then try it out.
I love that. Okay. You're going to have to tell us how it tastes. Well, I'm sure Andy knows, but you're going to have to tell me how it tastes. Awesome. Okay, let's get to the next question. All right, next statement. Sorry. This is a little bit on the serious side, but also an interesting side. And I'm not sure if you knew about this, but here's the statement. Polygamy is legal in South Africa. Agree or disagree? Not
Only
surprised.
if polyandry is legal in South Africa.
I don't even want that. And for those people that don't know what that means a woman can have multiple husbands, as well as a husband can have multiple partners.
I think my husband would say that I'm enough. I'm enough of a handful. He wouldn't want any more.
I love that. I absolutely love it. Well, listen, again, just so for the listeners, no one put up their hands. So no one is in agreement with the fact that polygamy is legal in South Africa. And listen, everyone is absolutely entitled to how they feel and to their opinions. So this is not a place where, we judge others for their opinion. You are so entitled for the way you feel and what your beliefs are, and that's 100%. So in this situation, the three of us don't agree with that. And I'm quite happy with, I'm not married, but, should one day I am blessed to have a family of my own, I would appreciate my husband loving me for me and vice versa. I will give him the same respect. I'm not planning to get a second or third or fourth husband because he's not enough. You know what I mean? I'm all about sticking with one person till death do us part. And I think that a big thanks goes to my parents because they're well into their 70s and they are still married to this day. So that was a great example for me of a relationship and a long-term relationship with just one partner. So Ameer, tell us why you disagree with it.
Why I disagree with it? Well, I don't. I've lived around. I've lived in Saudi Arabia. I've lived in Turkey. I've lived in the States. I grew up I was born in Germany, so I used to go to Germany fairly frequently. So I've seen all kinds of cultures, and now I'm here in Africa. And who am I to impose my, shall I say, Christian values or biblical values onto other people, right? So there's a lot of different cultures out there, and we can't just randomly go around and say, okay, that's wrong or that's right, and so on. So I don't necessarily disagree with polygamy. It's not for me, I know that. But, it's out there, and you have polyandry and you have polygamy. And it's very interesting because whenever I'm in hot circles and they say, oh, well, you lived in Saudi Arabia, polygamy is absolutely terrible. And I can't believe how do you feel about that? And I said, well, I feel about it as much as you hate polyandry. And then people ask me, what is polyandry? When you have multiple husbands. And then a couple of women sometimes get up and go, well, that's a different idea.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's, it goes both ways. But it's not for me. I can say that it's not for me, but I don't like the idea of imposing, my culture on others. So that's the other thing.
And I fully agree with you. But just so you know, some people might want to argue with the statement that your biblical views or Christian views doesn't agree with that. Let's not forget that back in the Bible days, men were having multiple wives, and that was okay in those times to have multiple wives. So that's in the Bible days. What about yourself, Andy? Why do you disagree with that statement?
I think I'm pretty much on the same page as Ameer. It's not so much as I disagree. The world's made up of a lot of different people. I have actually been to a wedding where the bride, her father, and his two wives came. It was interesting. I had to be careful not to stare because it was a novelty for me.
Right.
But it worked for them. But for me, no, one husband's enough, and I know my husband says I'm plenty enough trouble. So he wouldn't want, he couldn't deal with anymore.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, let's do one more statement. We have time for one more. So here's another statement. Flight would be the best superpower to have. Flight would be the best superpower to have. Agree or disagree? Okay, for the listeners, every one of us, the three of us, have all put up our hands. Andy, go tell us, why do you agree with this statement?
I recently went on, don't get me wrong, I am a bit of a daredevil, but I will not jump out of a plane. I have no wish to go skydiving. But I went and did one of those indoor skydiving experiences where they put you in this vertical wind tunnel, and it was amazing. The freedom was, it was just so cool of being, I think it's not so much the flying, but I think the weightless aspect of it is just so much fun.
Right, that's so true, and that's so interesting. What about yourself, Ameer? Why do you agree with the statement?
Well, I mean, it would be a lot of fun, obviously, to fly around and look at different things and experience different levels of the atmosphere and so on. But if I was wearing my MBA hat, I would say it depends on how fast I can fly. If I can fly fast, then it would save me a whole lot on plane tickets, and I would really enjoy that.
That's so true. That is so true. Well, I mean, I agree with it because I've jumped out of a plane myself and I love the feeling of flying. I've been in aviation for 11 years of my life. I absolutely loved just the feeling of looking out the little window, even though I was inside a metal tube fuselage. I still was able to look out the window at, 45,000 feet in the air to see the beauty of the clouds and the atmosphere up so high. So it's, again, very peaceful. It's very peaceful. And I think for me, that would be the perfect superpower to have. And also, I mean, how awesome would it be if I could see there's someone that needs help and I just swoop down and pick him up and swoop away? I mean, hero. So anyway, so yeah, that's definitely all agreed with that statement. So thanks for that, guys. So we have come to the end of the podcast, guys, and so I want to just thank you both, Andy and Ameer, for taking the time out of your days to take part in this podcast. And I want to also take a moment to just say there are people listening. And there are people that might have been inspired by your stories. So I'm going to just take a moment now. If you could both just share some places where people can contact you if they want to find out more and have a couple of questions regarding your road and your journey in opening a business. So Ameer, where can people reach out to you to ask more questions?
Easiest way to reach out to me is through our website. It's clearlypresented.net. So clearlypresented.net.
Nice. All right. And you also have a LinkedIn page here.
Yes, I do have a LinkedIn page with my name on it. LinkedIn it's Ameer Saib. It's AMEER as in Baker.
Nice. And what about yourself, Andy? Where can people find you if they want to have a little bit more of a one-to-one conversation with you?
Well, we're on pretty much every social media. So the easiest way to find us is just search Therapy on Wheels or hashtag Therapy on Wheels. And we also do have a website where there's heaps of information and links to all our other connections, which is therapyonwheels.asn.au.
Awesome. So for those that want to know a little bit more and want to find me, you can find me on the YouTube, Friends from Wild Places, where you can like, comment, and subscribe just for support if you like the video version of the podcast. You can also go to the actual website for the podcast, which is friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. That's friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com, where you can download the podcast, but you can download the podcast from all of the platforms for music and podcast downloading. So you don't have to worry about that. You can search Friends from Wild Places from anywhere on those platforms. But you can also find me on LinkedIn. That's more my business side, Shireen Buerta. But my personal side of things, you can find me as well on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Thank you again, Ameer. Thank you, Andy. And we'll see you guys next time. And remember, you got this. And stay wild. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Shireen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Buerta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.